I did want to start really just by mentioning the verdict of unlawful killing in the Ian Tomlinson case, because really to get that verdict of Ian Tomlinson murdered in the G20 protests has taken a lot of hard campaigning on the part of the family and the part of protesters, and I think we need to be clear that we wouldn't have had that verdict if people hadn't fought in that way. And we'd like to extend our solidarity to all those that have been killed by police, whether it's on protests or in police custody. But I think also, really, what this meeting is about is to bring people together to talk about how we can begin to develop a serious and effective campaign against the infringements on our right to protest. I mean, anyone that's been on a protest will know that lots of the things that the police do, indiscriminate batoning, collective punishments, the kettling, the mass arrests, the attempt to demonise particular protesters, divide the so-called peaceful protesters from the violent protesters. These things are not new, but I think what we've certainly seen in the last couple of years is an intensification of those things.
You Can Cut is a decentralised protest movement taking action all over the country against public spending cuts. It's creative, it's inspiring, it's fun. A typical action would be going and turning a bank into a library or a creche. The thing we've seen right from the very first protest, which was a sit-in in Vodafone, is police taking the side of corporations, acting almost as private security for corporations. In that very first protest, you had police officers physically dragging people out of the Vodafone shop in conjunction with Vodafone security staff. A woman got arrested for posting a leaflet through a door in Boots in London. Certainly this is something that we need to be concerned about, and we need to do all we can to continue to defend our right to protest.
I was arrested on Lewisham Street corner Thursday evening for preparing street theatre. There were 2 van loads of police plus 3 or 4 cars, I can't remember how many, maybe 20 odd officers. It took more to arrest us than they sent to arrest the Crays.
Unfortunately, one of the effects of this is, and this is one of the more insidious effects that it has when protesters get arrested, is it has an effect of silencing people. So it can make it very difficult for people to speak about their particular case in terms of the effects it can have on their case. So Alfie is here tonight, but he's not going to be speaking tonight. Instead, his solicitor, Sarah McSherry, is going to step in and say a few words about that case.
Unfortunately, I too am restricted as to what I can say, because obviously there are 2 sets of investigations ongoing. One is involving Alfie's now criminal proceedings, and there is the other, which is the IPCC investigation into the action which resulted in the serious injury that he sustained. So I am restricted. I can repeat what Alfie has already said, which is that he is going to defend the charge, which is of violent disorder, and so his time will come where he doesn't have to be silent. But at the minute, we'll just ensure that we don't prejudice those proceedings, and we'll confine it to that. Photographing of protesters has already been mentioned, and then the publication of those photographs in various newspapers with captions that suggest guilt of some kind have been widespread, and we have come across that in the office. That is a breach of Article 8, your right to privacy.
The right to protest isn't something that governments give us, and that's really, really important to remember, especially not governments like the one at the moment. You know, no matter how many letters we write, and no matter how many legal cases we bring, although that is important too, it's important to do those things, but no matter how much quiet outrage we can muster, this government is not going to turn around and say, oh, you can have the right to protest, all right, that's fine, sorry, you know, we sort of took it, but now you can have it. That's not going to happen. You know, there is a concerted attack on dissent in this country. There was a general feeling among quite a lot of the public, support for You Can Cut, support for the students, you know, the thinking that, you know, maybe what these people are doing is all right. You know, it seemed to link into the problems that people were experiencing in their everyday lives. And now that's been turned around. Now there is an effort to, you know, disseminate you know, counter-propaganda, counter-attacks through the press and through the media.
Mayor Daley of Chicago put it best when he was asked to justify the treatment of protesters at the Democratic Convention by his police force, and he made one of the most famous Freudian slips in history, where he said, the role of the policeman is not to create disorder, the role of the policeman is to preserve disorder. And that's what their role has been today. Since November the 10th, we've seen this movement develop that is fueled by visceral class hatred at the injustice and inequality of what's being perpetrated by this government, and the police's role is to protect the rich and powerful, just like the government are doing. And that's what this is about. That's why we find ourselves in November. You know, the Education Activist Network organised a rally at Downing Street. All day, students were kettled on the 24th of November. People went down in the evening after work. We'd set up this rally. There were people with children in the kettle, and the police charged us 3 times on horseback. Absolutely outrageous treatment.
It was really shocking around the student protests on December the 9th, when we had so many people put in hospital, people almost killed by the police, and the media the next day, every single national newspaper, put bloody Camilla Parker Bowles on the front page getting poked with a stick by some lucky anarchist who's just in the right place at the right time, frankly. And just, you know, but then, like, we were really suffering from, like, the police violence on those demonstrations. I think that, like, what we're talking about here is the right to protest, the right to effective forms of protest, the right to be angry about what the government's doing, and the right to take action against that.
When you're being kettled and beaten by the police, it's not often that you expect an MP to pop up to show his support. But I have to say I was very pleased when I was being bludgeoned and driven back in Trafalgar Square on the night of the 26th of March as part of the, turn Trafalgar Square into Here Square, to have John McDonnell to turn up to remonstrate with the police and to show his support. So people give a warm welcome to John McDonnell.
Just step back a bit and think of your government at the moment. If you're in government at the moment and you're introducing a whole rash of policies which people are angry about, they're cutting people's jobs, their services, 2.5 million unemployed, 1 million young people unemployed, and they're driving through more and more to people, make people homeless and all the rest of it, you're going to calculate that there's going to be resistance, aren't you? It's inevitable. This isn't conspiracy theory. It is rational for them to sit down and think, what level of resistance is there going to be to these policies? Because there will be resistance. And what happened last November, when the student demonstration turned up with UCU, 50,000 rather than 20,000 expected, when they kicked the shit out of Millbank Towers as well, what they then thought, this is a taster of things to come. And if you're in government, and I've been in situations, you just tell the relevant officers, and in this case the police or the security services, just do what is necessary to quell this resistance and kill it off as best you can and keep us in government. And that's what's happening.
And also how refreshing it is as an anarchist to hear a member of Parliament, John, where is he, speaking the truth. I loved it. Anyway, first things first, I am an anarchist. I come from a long history of studying philosophy and being a human being, so we need to reclaim the word anarchy from the mainstream media. Anarchy is about peace and love, no gods, no masters, because I've never seen an anarchist group of people invade Iraq and kill 500,000 children.
And we are also mindful of the fact that those who are in those kinds of situations and they feel intimidated and maybe do not want the media coverage but still need support, particularly need legal advice, please could you log on to our website. You have heard from a number of people here who already can and do offer legal support. We can also put you in touch with legal representatives, and we have also been emailed by a number of people who feel isolated and are concerned.